Everybody, welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. I just got out of seeing the latest mystery movie, probably one of the more longer mystery movies, and frankly it was not something that I was going to see, but given just the fact of it being just what, like $6, sure. So yeah, so I just checked out what was probably more recognizable of the mystery movies that they'll probably offer, because they typically do smaller films, little indie projects, typically things that will not make money, which frankly in the production that was this, it falls in line into that respect. So it tracks. So um, that film that we're discussing is Gladiator II, which was written and primarily directed by Ridley Scott. Once again, being directed by Ridley Scott. Not familiar if he's involved in the writing or not. I'm not entirely sure, but returns once again to direct these follow-up, and this has Paul Mescal taking up the ranks, taking up the lead role here as Lucius, as he is. As the first film was about Russell Crowe as Maximus, he had a son named Lucius, and we follow that son now as he seems to be on his own path. As we start at the beginning, he's fielded with a group of people, and amidst his own dilemmas, his own personal life, the Roman Empire, since the death of Maximus, which is about 10 years or so later after the original film, it has fallen apart towards these new emperors, two brothers that are have taken up the ranks, and they are chaotic, in some respects exaggerative in terms of performances, and they have a general who is played by Pedro Pascal, and they have him go to conquer all the land that they can possibly get. And Pedro Pascal sets his sights on the area that Paul Mescal's character, Lucius, resides. And amidst the battle, Lucius loses someone very special to him, kind of echoing that of that original film. And he sets himself on a quest to get to Rome, where he meets a guy played by Denzel Washington, who helps him in his path towards vengeance, to try to get to Pedro Pascal, and along the way learning his origins, of where he came from and what that may in fact mean to him in his quest for vengeance and in his shaping of his perspective of things. So, and generally speaking, I mean, that is what the film is wrestling with, is the idea of perspective, and within that, corruption, power, and ultimately how one takes what shapes a person's agenda and what motivates them to do the things that they do. And in that, there is some intriguing or some interesting some interesting floating of ideas that keeps some engagement throughout. And so with that, you guys have also a plethora of performances that are fairly good. I mean, all of them I think are well integrated. I think that the exception to that, and I think people have brought it up, is the casting of Denzel Washington, which, for my opinion anyway, I feel was a bit out of place. I mean, for what he is doing, I mean, Denzel is Denzel. He's always good in what he does, and it's a fair performance in what he brings here. But I feel as though the manner of his acting just is not suitable for this environment, or at least in how he is handling himself. It just seems like Denzel just being Denzel. And to be frank, I feel as though that attitude is also lends itself to saying that I feel as though that Denzel isn't actually trying as much. And luckily, in the spirit of what Denzel Washington is as a performer, less is fair. It's not to where it is lackluster or is not as appealing. There's still some color to what he is providing in just being himself, but ultimately there is just a questionable, question as to his existence within this ensemble that is lingering throughout the film because of that attitude that is there. It's very, very distinct. For where the other characters, they seem very well integrated into this world. Denzel just seems very much his own world, and he's bringing that here, and that just seems like a bit of a clash in that regard. Um, and but I will say also that I found an issue with the original Gladiator because I was not fond of the original one as much as everyone else was. To be frank, I can't remember much of it except kind of the last few minutes, and a few scenes here and there. This film definitely, you know, definitely got my memory going on the original film because this film definitely treads on a remembrance of that original story. A lot of visual cues, a lot of lines. There's a great sense of familiarity that comes with Gladiator II, and to some extent it is warranted, and a lot of other times it just feels like more of a wink and nod to the audience. And in that sense of familiarity, what's also sitting beside it is also a sense of shallowness, because when we get to talking about the narrative, there really isn't much there. As I described, I mean, it is virtually about perspective and about where the motivations and the spirits of these characters, the origins of that perspective. Where does that come from? Why do they do the things that they do, and what propels them to make certain decisions or changing in their rationale? It's straightforward. It's knowledge that we visually are seeing play out, and it's not there to where there's an underbelly to it. It's not to where there's more of a sense of depth or more of a sense of a gray area within the actions of the characters. Because in presenting such a claim, it feels as though that there should be some sense of gray, within the decision making within these characters. As if for us as audiences, when we look at something like Paul Mescal does, we should feel a sense of maybe trepidation, But really, he is practically and literally kind of unstoppable. He's this unstoppable force, and there isn't a sense of danger to him when he does the things that he does. He just kind of moves through the story quite in a brutal and violent sense, but in that there isn't much of a stake, there isn't much of a danger or an uncertainty to what may happen to his character. He's just a brutal force. So, and that creates again a hollowness. It creates a lot of thin developments. And generally with the characters themselves, I just didn't find a lot to them except just one-note ideas. I mean, Paul Mescal is just rageful. Pedro Pascal is honorable. Denzel Washington is very manipulative. There's just one-word traits to describe each of these characters and what keeps them distinct from each other, but it doesn't develop them further. It doesn't make them feel like they're richly, detailed. It just gives them just traits, little personality traits. But that's not enough to give them more of a sense of weight, when you see them on screen, or a sense of real discussion, and really looking at them in a dissective manner. Because all you're going to get is just the surface, because that's all that is supplied in developing these characters. And in that, also the story itself, and just how it moves along. It's just very much hanging on the surface, and relying upon what it is literally telling you and visually telling you, and not providing an underbelly to that idea. So, but as I stated, there are some. I also must say the exaggerated quality, because there was at least to my memory of it, I don't remember the original Gladiator being this exaggerative. I mean, there was a tiger, there was some elements here and there to play up kind of an exaggerated quality, but it felt a little bit more in-house, especially when discussing, this time period. It seemed a little bit more plausible, and what they had in the film, the original film. And this, it seems a lot more amplified and more of a flirt in the utilization of a massive budget that this holds. In that, okay, now we have all this money, so let's just do the things that that you would perhaps read in mythology and stuff. Let's just have the Colosseum filled up with water. Let's have sharks. Let's have rhinos. Let's have really weird looking monkeys. It's just amplified a lot more. And then when those scenes happen, again, very similar to how Denzel feels very separated from the cast, that too also feels very separated. When these spurts of action take place, that sense of groundedness that the original had within its action is kind of faded and lost when these pieces show up. They just feel like big set pieces, but they don't feel well integrated into this world. They just feel really standalone, and frankly, just again a bit exaggerated, a bit unwarranted in that exaggeration. So, so it's definitely flawed. It's to say that the film is definitely flawed, and it shares a lot of that same feeling that I had about the original, in that there's a sense of conflict that I kind of bear in my overall feeling of the film, because I can't sit here and say that that it's it's bad. It's bad. I mean, there are some intriguing elements there. Like I said, good performances there. I think thematically, in terms of what is just literally being discussed, I think there's some interesting ideas. Um, and eventually, the film does find its own sense of identity, because it does bathe quite a bit in treading in old water. That synopsis that I provided does echo quite a bit of what the original film was in leading up to, certain events. But it eventually does drop that story to then gearing more into what I had described thematically speaking, and it finds its own flavor at that point. And at that point, it starts to become its own thing. And within that, I can sense that there is a a desire to look further than what the original film was offering in terms of a story. Um, so I guess I guess share kind of the same feelings that I had with the original film, in that my ultimate conclusion is, eh, it just doesn't bear as much. It just doesn't really hold as much, and it doesn't really mean as much at the end of the day. So there's some good performances there, and you get some interesting ideas. But I feel that the problem with Gladiator II is that it speaks these ideas very clearly, but then it doesn't wish to look further into those ideas. It doesn't wish to have a deeper discussion about what it's saying. It's just kind of saying stuff, but it doesn't really want to go into that deeper sense. It doesn't want to go to the extra layers to really present more dimensions, and in my opinion, perhaps more gray to the circumstance, because I feel like the circumstance really lends itself to some sort of gray, but it just is very black and white, and I feel as though that just feels a bit lingering, a bit long. I had to pee real bad. I gotta be honest, I had to pee real bad. Um, and I will say this, as a positive towards it, in that sense of needing to pee. If I really don't like something, I would just probably just go ahead and pee. But I did not. I sat through the entire thing because there was something there on a technical level, I must say, in terms of how it's paced, that does keep me interested. That does have a sense of momentum. That does have a sense of drive. But when I talk about just what is there in terms of a story, it's them. It's lacking. It doesn't have a lot of dimensions, and it's just very much on the surface and of the statement that it provides. Absolutely. But there's nothing else on there's no underbelly. There's nothing that really feels like we're getting to the meat of these ideas. It's just as it seems. It's about perspectives. It's literally about those ideas, about people's perspectives and the agendas, corruption and power, and how they get to those places, and what motivates them to perhaps seek power or to seek another idea. Um, like, that's literally what it is. And I wish that was not the case. I wish it wasn't in the literal. I wish it was more, just more in what it is discussing. So I can't say if it's better than the original either, because I can't remember the original to save my life. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I really will remember this either. So perhaps they are of the same quality. I'm not 100% sure, but I will say that I do not find myself in a highly cynical place, nor in a higher sense of optimism, just in a big sense of mediocrity. It's okay. It's nothing great. It's nothing spectacular, and it's nothing horrible either. It's just very, very okay. And I feel as though that's, at least in my opinion, just kind of, riding in the same quality of what the original was for me. It's just okay. And I wish there was just more to what it's discussing, and not just in the literal of what we already know and what it is already telling us ad nauseum. I just wish there was more. but there just really isn't. So yeah, so there's my thoughts on Gladiator 2. It's okay. It's nothing that special. It's really surface. And like I said, good, some decent performances here and there, and overall just thematically and overwritten by dialogue as well, and by how it is literally written. There's some good elements there to to give the film some quality and some to bring it up from what could have been that feeling of just pure boredom. And on a technical front as well, like by how it's paced, there are elements there to give it life, but it doesn't provide it a sense of real depth or meat or real gravitas. It just literally is what it is telling you, and nothing more than that. And I wish I just wish that wasn't the case. So, but you guys know your thoughts on Gladiator 2. If you guys have seen it, it will be coming out this Friday, as well as Wicked, so we'll see how this weekend plays out. Do you think it's going to make its money back? Probably not, but you guys let me know your thoughts on Gladiator 2 and your thoughts on the original film if you guys have seen it. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.